the shadowy alleys of noir to the twisting corridors of mystery, Detectives and Dice brings you thrilling tales of tabletop intrigue. Grab your fedora, roll the dice, and sharpen your wits, because in this game, the clues are hidden and danger lurks around every corner. Tune in now for a new case, and maybe a few surprises along the way.
Welcome back for part 2 of our deep dive into writing mysteries for RPGs. This time we're turning our magnifying glass to gray cells. Remember last time when we talked about structuring compelling mysteries? Well, Gray Cells gives you a fantastic system to bring those mysteries to life in your RPG sessions. We've got a stack of Gray Cells resources here: Core Rulebook, Crimes in Chrome, Mythos Mysteries, and Suspects in Sorcery. Ready to unravel the secrets of this system and find out how it can make your mystery RPGs truly shine. Let's dive in.
It is exciting to see a system like this emerge, really focusing on giving players a robust way to engage in mysteries.
Absolutely. I'm already intrigued by how Gray Cells blends storytelling with mechanics. It's not just about describing the scene. There are rules that directly impact how your investigation unfolds.
Yeah, one of the key things that stands out to me is the concept of shift. It adds a layer of strategy to those crucial moments when your players are trying to uncover clues or gain information.
So it's not just about rolling the dice and hoping for the best.
Not at all. Let's say your player is a detective, trying to spot a tiny clue in a crowded room. Their observation attribute would be important, but the crowded environment would give them a negative shift, making it harder to succeed.
But their detective could also have an exploit, right? Like a special ability that gives them a bonus to their role, maybe representing their sharp eye for detail.
Precisely. It creates these little mini-games within the investigation, where players can use their character's strengths, tools, or even the environment to their advantage. It's about giving them agency and rewarding clever thinking.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not just about luck. It's about using your resources strategically. And speaking of resources, what about those contacts? Those seem like they could add a whole new dimension to investigations.
Contacts are fantastic. They represent your character's network of connections. Imagine your player needs to access a restricted area. Instead of just rolling a dice to see if they can sneak in, they could call on their contact. A friendly security guard who owes them a favor. Suddenly it becomes a role-playing opportunity, full of tension and intrigue.
So it's not just about being a lone wolf detective. It's about leveraging your relationships, negotiating favors, and maybe even calling in some debts. It makes the world feel more real and interconnected.
It really does, and it opens up so many possibilities for players to get creative with their investigations. They're not just limited to their character's skills. They have this whole network of potential allies and resources at their disposal.
Now, I'm really curious about the types of characters you can play in Gray Cells. The rulebook mentions 6 core backgrounds: beat cop, crook, detective, reporter, scientist, and socialite. What struck you about these options?
The diversity, for one. It's not just about playing the stereotypical detective. You could have a team composed of a streetwise crook with underworld connections, a meticulous scientist who analyzes clues in the lab, and a charming socialite who can gather information from the city's elite.
It's like assembling your own mystery-solving dream team. Each character brings their own unique perspective and set of skills to the table.
And that's what makes collaborative storytelling so much fun in Gray Cells. Imagine the crook using their skills to infiltrate a shady nightclub, while the scientist analyzes a mysterious substance found at the crime scene.
And the reporter could be digging through archives or interviewing witnesses, trying to connect the dots.
Exactly. Each character has a role to play, and their combined efforts are what ultimately lead to cracking the case. It's about teamwork and utilizing everyone's strengths.
Now, before we get into the different expansions and the unique worlds they offer, I'm curious about the core setting of Gray Cells. Does the game assume a specific time period or world?
Not at all. One of the things that makes Gray Cells so adaptable is that it's designed to be flexible. You can set your mysteries in any world you can imagine. A gritty, modern city, a historical period, a fantasy realm, even a futuristic cyberpunk dystopia.
Wow. That's pretty open-ended. So it's more about using these core mechanics and character types to create your own unique mystery setting.
Precisely. And the rulebook even provides guidance on tailoring the game to different mystery genres: cozy, hard-boiled, police procedural, and thriller. These aren't strict limitations, but rather frameworks to help you set the tone and style of your mysteries.
So I could have a classic whodunit in a charming English village, or a gritty detective story in a rain-soaked Noir city.
Absolutely. And the mechanics of Gray Cells would support both of those settings equally well. It's all about how you use the tools the system provides to craft your story.
That's really cool. It's like Gray Cells gives you the building blocks, and you get to decide what kind of architectural masterpiece you want to create.
Are you ready to explore some of those pre-built worlds that Gray Cells offers? We've got 3 expansions here, each taking the core system in a very different direction. Crimes and Chrome, Mythos Mysteries, and Suspects and Sorcery.
Oh, absolutely. I'm ready to see how Gray Cells adapts to these wildly different settings. Let's start with Crimes in Chrome. What kind of cyberpunk mysteries can we weave with this expansion?
This one throws you headfirst into a neon-drenched future, where technology is both a tool and a threat. Think augmented detectives, virtual reality crime scenes, and investigations that blur the lines between the physical and digital worlds.
Whoa, that's awesome. You could have mysteries involving rogue AIs, cybernetically enhanced assassins, or even corporate espionage in virtual reality spaces.
Exactly. And Crimes in Chrome even introduces rules for spaceship combat and chases, adding a whole new dimension to your investigations.
So the ships, okay. Now you're just showing off. But seriously, that sounds incredibly exciting.
It's a lot of fun. Imagine chasing a suspect through the crowded skies of a megally city, or infiltrating a corporate space station to uncover a conspiracy. The possibilities are endless.
Okay, I'm officially hooked on Crimes in Chrome. But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about Mythos Mysteries. That title alone gives me chills. What kind of dark secrets await us in this expansion?
This is where Gray Cells takes a sharp turn into the realm of cosmic horror, inspired by the works of H.P. Lovecraft. Get ready to confront ancient entities, grapple with sanity mechanics, and investigate mysteries that are less about solving crimes and more about surviving the encounter.
So instead of searching for a murderer, we might be trying to stop an ancient ritual from ending the world, or piecing together clues about a creature that defies human comprehension.
Exactly, and Mythos Mysteries introduces this concept of eldritch truths. Powerful but dangerous secrets that can drive your investigators mad if they delve too deep.
Intriguing and terrifying. It's like the stakes are suddenly raised to a cosmic level. You're not just dealing with human criminals anymore. You're facing forces beyond our understanding.
And that's what makes Mythos Mysteries so compelling. It challenges players to think differently, to question their assumptions, and to confront the terrifying unknown.
Okay. Last but certainly not least, we've got Suspects and Sorcery. What kind of fantastical mysteries can we conjure up with this expansion?
This one transports you to a world of traditional fantasy, but with a unique Gray Cells twist. Imagine investigating cursed artifacts, delving into magical conspiracies, and even facing off against epic foes like dragons.
Dragons, now we're talking. Plus, Suspects and Sorcery lets you play as magical beings, like beasts, heralds, and spirits, each with their own unique abilities and perspectives. I'm already picturing a griffin detective.
And don't forget the magic system. It introduces arts, which are quick and versatile spells, and rituals, which are more potent but require time and preparation. This adds a whole new layer to both mysteries and investigations.
So you could have a beast investigator using their enhanced senses to track a suspect, while a practitioner weaves a spell to glean information from a magical artifact. The potential for creative problem-solving is incredible.
It is. Suspects and Sorcery takes the investigative gameplay of Gray Cells and infuses it with magic and wonder. You're not just solving crimes anymore, you're uncovering ancient secrets and battling supernatural forces. It's a whole new level of excitement and intrigue.
I'm absolutely loving the diversity of worlds that Gray Cells offers. Each expansion feels like a completely different game, but they're all built on that same solid foundation of investigative mechanics.
That's the beauty of it. Gray Cells gives you a strong framework, a set of reliable tools, and then encourages you to experiment, to create, to let your imagination run wild.
Before we dive deeper into these expansions and how to create compelling mysteries within their unique settings, let's take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment to unravel more secrets of Gray Cells and how it can make your RPG mysteries truly unforgettable.
Welcome back, mystery enthusiasts. I'm eager to delve deeper into the mechanics of Gray Cells and how they bring those investigations to life.
Me too. We've talked about those big picture elements like shift and context, but I'm curious about the nitty-gritty of how investigations actually work. What are those core mechanics that players will be using to uncover clues and unravel the mystery?
Well, at its heart, Gray Cells uses a system of attribute checks. These represent your character's basic abilities, their strengths and weaknesses. When your player wants to attempt something challenging, like picking a lock, researching an obscure topic, or persuading a reluctant witness, they'll roll a handful of dice based on the relevant attribute.
Okay, so that's the basic dice rolling mechanic you see in a lot of RPGs. But what makes Gray Cell's attribute checks unique?
It's the nuance of the results, you see. In gray cells, there are 4 degrees of success: fail, partial, full, and critical.
So even if you don't achieve a complete success, you might still gain something valuable from the attempt.
Exactly. Let's say your player is trying to pick that lock. A fail means they simply can't get it open. But a partial success might mean they managed to budget, creating a noticeable mark. That could be useful later. A full success, of course, means they open the lock. And a critical success might mean they do it quickly and quietly, maybe even finding a hidden compartment inside.
I love how that translates into the narrative. It's not just a binary success or failure. There are shades of gray that keep the investigation moving forward, even if the players encounter setbacks.
And those shades of gray are further enhanced by the shift mechanic we discussed earlier. Remember, shift modifies your dice rolls, giving you bonuses or penalties based on a variety of factors.
Right, like if my detective is trying to tail a suspect through a crowded market, their agility would be important, but the bustling crowd would give them a negative shift,
Right.
making it harder to stay undetected.
But maybe that detective has an exploit called blending in, which gives them bonus shift when they're trying to move unnoticed in crowds suddenly. That challenging situation becomes manageable because the player has made smart choices in building their character.
I see. So it's not just about rolling dice, it's about thinking strategically, using your character's abilities and the environment to your advantage.
And then there are the contacts. They can really tip the scales in your favor during an investigation. Imagine your player needs information from a grumpy librarian who guards a restricted archive. Instead of relying solely on their persuasion skill, they could call in their contact, a fellow bookworm who happens to work at the library, to smooth things over.
It's like having an ace up your sleeve. You can bypass those roadblocks and gain access to information or resources that would otherwise be out of reach. It makes the world feel alive and responsive to the player's actions.
And it creates those fun moments of role-playing, where players have to negotiate favors, call in debts, or even resort to a bit of trickery to get what they need.
Okay, so we've got attribute checks, shift, contacts, all these tools working together to drive the investigation forward. But what about the overall structure of a Gray Cells mystery? How does a typical game session unfold?
Well, it all starts with a crime, or at least a suspicious incident. That warrants investigation. The GM sets the scene, presents the initial puzzle. Maybe a body is discovered, a valuable artifact goes missing, or a series of strange events starts to unfold.
And then it's up to the players to take charge and decide where to go from there.
Absolutely. The players become the driving force of the investigation. They choose which locations to visit, which people to question, which leads to follow. It's a very collaborative process.
So it's not a linear storyline where the GM is dictating every step. The players have genuine agency to explore the mystery at their own pace.
That's the beauty of Gray Cells. The players are actively involved in shaping the narrative, making decisions that have real consequences. They might choose to focus on a specific clue, chase a red herring, or even overlook something crucial. And those choices will impact how the mystery unfolds.
And the GM's role is to facilitate that process,
Right.
to provide information, present challenges, and keep the story moving forward in a compelling way.
Precisely. The GM is like a conductor, guiding the orchestra of player actions and weaving them into a cohesive narrative. They control the flow of information, the appearance of new clues, and the actions of any villains or antagonists.
So even if the players go down a rabbit hole or hit a dead end, the GM has ways to keep things interesting and get the investigation back on track.
Exactly. They might introduce a new clue, a helpful contact, or even a twist that completely changes the player's understanding of the case. It's all about creating an engaging and dynamic experience where the players feel like they're truly solving the mystery.
Now let's talk about some of the special actions players can use during their investigations. These seem like more powerful tools that go beyond those basic attribute checks.
They are. We've touched on a few already, like Ask Around and Tail, but there are many more that allow players to dig deeper, uncover hidden information, and even manipulate situations to their advantage.
For example, I see one called Dig Deep. What does that entail?
Dig Deep represents those moments when your players need to do some serious research. Maybe they need to pore over old records, scour online databases, or consult with experts in a particular field.
So it's not just about asking a few questions. It's about putting in the time and effort to unearth those hidden gems of information.
Exactly. And the results can be game-changing. They might uncover a crucial document, a forgotten connection, or even a rumor that sheds new light on the case.
I imagine those dig deep moments can be really rewarding for players. It's like they've earned that breakthrough through their hard work and dedication.
And then you have actions like Stakeout, where players can choose to wait and watch, hoping to catch someone in the act, or gather evidence that links them to the crime. It's classic detective work.
It's like setting a trap and waiting for the right moment to spring it. And the tension builds as the players observe, gather information, and try to anticipate the suspect's next move.
And of course, No mystery would be complete without the possibility of confrontations. Not every case can be solved with a simple conversation or a bit of research. Sometimes things get physical, or at least incredibly tense.
So are we talking about combat here? Fisticuffs in a dark alley? A car chase through crowded streets?
Not always. A confrontation in gray cells can take many forms. It could be a tense standoff, a desperate escape, a battle of wits, or even a social showdown where the players are trying to outmaneuver a powerful opponent.
I like how that keeps things unpredictable. It's not just about physical prowess.
Yeah.
It's about using your character's strengths.
Yeah.
There's their combat skills,
Yeah.
their quick thinking, or their silver tongue to overcome the challenge.
And Gray Cells has a clever system for handling these confrontations. It starts with establishing the stakes. What are the goals of each side? What are the potential consequences of success or failure?
Okay, so we're setting the stage, making sure everyone understands what's at risk. Then what?
Then the players choose their approaches. These are the tactics they'll use to try and achieve their goals. It could be anything from hold the line, to evade, to find an opening, to go for the throat.
So they're not just rolling dice to attack. They're choosing a specific strategy based on the situation and their character's abilities.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting. The villain or antagonist also has a modus operandi, a set of mental and physical tactics that they're likely to use in a confrontation.
And if the players can figure out the villain's MO and choose approaches that counter it, they gain an advantage. It's like a game of chess within the confrontation itself.
Precisely. It adds a layer of tactical thinking, encouraging players to observe, deduce, and use their knowledge of the opponent to their advantage.
So let's say the villain is a cunning manipulator, someone who always tries to control the situation with words. Their mental MO might be dominate.
And if the players recognize that and choose an approach like undermine, which directly counters that dominate MO, they'll have a better chance of disrupting the villain's plans and gaining the upper hand.
This is fantastic. I'm seeing all these attribute checks, shift, contact, special actions, confrontations work together to create a truly engaging and dynamic investigative experience. You're not just following a script. You're making choices that matter.
And those choices have real weight. Every success, every failure, every piece of information gathered pushes the story forward and brings the players closer to unraveling the truth.
I'm already buzzing with ideas for mysteries. I want to run using gray cells. But before I get ahead of myself, we need to talk about those different genres we mentioned earlier. Cozy, hard-boiled, police procedural, and thriller. How do those genres influence the types of mysteries you create and the tone of your game sessions?
That's a great point. Genres are more than just labels. They're the soul of a mystery. They set the stage, determine the atmosphere, and influence everything from character archetypes to the types of clues you'll be seeking. So let's dive into those genres and explore how gray cells can bring each one to life.
All right, let's break down these genres. I'm picturing a spectrum here, from the cozy end, where it's more about the puzzles and the interpersonal drama, all the way to the high-stakes thriller, where it feels like the fate of the world is hanging in the balance.
You've got it. And Gray Cells is surprisingly adept at handling that whole spectrum. It all comes down to how you, as the game master, tailor the setting, the characters, and the clues to fit the genre you're aiming for.
Let's start with cozy, since that's probably the furthest from the action movie thrillers we usually see in RPGs. What does a cozy Gray Cells mystery look like?
Think Agatha Christie, but with your friends as the detectives. It's about a seemingly peaceful community, often in a quaint small town or village, where everyone knows everyone else's secrets, and someone is hiding a deadly one.
So instead of hard-boiled detectives, we might have amateur sleuths, curious neighbors, or even members of a book club who stumble upon a murder most foul.
Exactly. And the crimes themselves are often personal in nature, driven by jealousy, revenge, or long-held grudges. It's less about elaborate schemes, and more about those intimate betrayals that shatter the facade of a tight-knit community.
I can see how the contact system would be especially fun in a cozy setting. Your players could be leveraging their relationships with the local gossip monger, the kindly vicar, or even the town busybody to gather clues.
Absolutely. It's all about piecing together those seemingly insignificant details, a whispered conversation overheard at the bakery, a missing gardening tool, a cryptic note left on a doorstep. It's those subtle clues that make cozy mysteries so engaging.
And what about hard-boiled? That feels like the classic detective genre, full of cynicism, trench coats, and shady characters lurking in smoky back rooms. Does Gray Cells capture that vibe well?
It does. This is where those gritty, urban settings really shine. Imagine your players are hard-nosed private investigators, jaded cops, or even reformed criminals who get pulled back into the underbelly of the city.
And crimes would be more brutal.
Right.
Organized crime, corruption, betrayals with deadly consequences, that kind of thing.
Exactly. The stakes are higher, the morality is more ambiguous, and your players will likely find themselves navigating a web of double crosses and dangerous alliances.
I can see how the confrontation system in Gray Cells would really come into play. In a hard-boiled setting, those tense standoffs, desperate chases, and battles of wits would be a staple of the game.
And remember, it's not always about winning those confrontations through brute force. It's about using your smarts, your resources, and sometimes even a bit of luck to outmaneuver your opponents.
Okay, now let's talk police procedural, which feels like it's all about the meticulous process of evidence gathering and building a rock-solid case. Can Gray Cells handle that kind of methodical investigation?
It certainly can. This genre is perfect for players who love to pore over details, analyze evidence, and follow the trail of clues with a forensic eye. Think crime scene tape, fingerprint dust, lab analysis, the whole 9 yards.
So our players might be detectives, forensic specialists,
Well,
or even crime scene investigators
yeah,
who work together to piece together the puzzle.
precisely. And the crimes themselves could range from straightforward murders to complex conspiracies involving multiple suspects, elaborate cover-ups, and maybe even a few corrupt officials trying to throw them off the scent.
I can see how the dig deep action would be crucial in a police procedural setting. Your players might spend hours in the archives reviewing security footage or consulting with experts to uncover that one vital piece of evidence.
And those moments of discovery, when they finally crack the code or find that missing link, are incredibly satisfying. It's like a reward for all their hard work and meticulous investigation.
Okay, finally, let's talk thriller. This is the genre where the stakes are highest, the action is relentless, and there's always a sense of urgency driving the plot forward.
Yeah.
How does Gray Cells handle that kind of intensity?
This is where Gray Cells really shines. In terms of creating those nail-biting scenarios and putting your players under pressure. Imagine ticking clocks, desperate chases, and life or death decisions that have to be made in the blink of an eye.
So our players might be ordinary people thrust into extraordinary circumstances, government agents racing to stop a catastrophic event, or even former victims seeking revenge against a powerful enemy.
Exactly, and the crimes themselves are often part of a larger conspiracy, a sinister plot that threatens innocent lives and could have global consequences.
The confrontations in a thriller setting would be especially intense, right? Maybe it's a desperate struggle to disarm a bomb, a high-speed chase through city streets, or even a tense negotiation with a hostage taker.
And remember, in Gray Cells, confrontations aren't just about combat. They can be any situation where the stakes are high and the players are forced to act under pressure. It could even be a verbal showdown with a cunning manipulator, where they need to use their wits and their words to win the day.
This has been an amazing deep dive into Gray Cells. We've covered the mechanics, the character types, the setting flexibility, and now we've explored these 4 distinct genres that the system can handle so well. I'm feeling incredibly inspired to start crafting my own Gray Cells mysteries.
And that's what it's all about. Gray Cells gives you the tools, the framework, and the inspiration to create truly memorable and engaging mysteries for your players.
So whether you're drawn to the cozy charm of a small-town whodunit, the gritty realism of a hard-boiled detective story, the meticulous process of a police procedural, or the heart-pounding thrills of a conspiracy thriller, Gray Cells has you covered.
So get out there, embrace your inner detective, and start weaving those unforgettable mysteries.
And that's a wrap for this deep dive. Until next time.